Hi, and welcome everybody. I'm Jerry, and I am head of B2B at Diversity Wines. And I'm so excited because for today's webinar, we are welcoming the team from Gleam Connections. We've got McKenna Schroeder, who is a founder. I'm going to introduce you to her in just a second. But the topic for today is basically how to do less but get more done. So we can all get bogged down in the tasks of running businesses. And this webinar is going to focus on the hacks and the tips and tricks that you can use to get things done quicker, to get more done faster. So McKenna's going to tell you a little bit about her business, and she works exclusively in the wine industry. So she's got a lot of experience in this. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to you, McKenna, and I will see you at the end of the webinar. I'm not going to be coming back in, but I will be in the audience.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so
Welcome.
much, Jerry. See you later.
Welcome.
Awesome. So yes, as Jerry said, we are Gleam Connections, and we are a marketing and strategy agency that's dedicated to supporting wine brands, specifically wineries. And we support with a range of things. Basically, we come in and we allow you to take back the time that maybe you're spending on admin tasks and marketing tasks. So anything from social media management to email marketing, website optimization, and anything on the back end that's really taking your time and your because we know that most of you got into the wine industry based on the fact that you love wine, you love creating exceptional wine experiences. So we're really allowing you to get back into that passion and taking care of those tasks that no longer fulfill you or keep you passionate. And I am joined alongside Antonia. So Antonia is our operations manager, and she is a queen at all things systems, admin, backend support. So that's why I have her here as my companion, and we are going to guide you through a bit of a presentation that we have based on specific areas that will really allow you to take back your time in both marketing and admin. So our goal of this is to have you walking away feeling a little bit more confident, a little bit more at ease, and having somewhat of a roadmap to be able to follow in terms of what we're going to be sharing. So our goal as well, we're going to spend around roughly 30 minutes going through what we have here to share with you today. And then at the very end of the webinar, we'll leave around 15 minutes for any questions that you may have. And definitely feel free if you have questions and they're like burning while we're going through certain topics, just drop them in the chat regardless, because we don't want you to forget them. And then we'll circle back around to them at the end of the webinar. Awesome. And we'd love to know too, like, where are you coming in from? Please do drop in the chat and say hello. We'd love to make this as interactive as we can and get to know you all. I'm Canadian, so I'm currently in the Okanagan area of BC right now, and Antonia is coming in from Panama. So a little bit of everywhere. Um, awesome. Okay, so we are going to get into it then. And I am just going to pull open my notes on my end. Awesome. And we really want to preface this too by definitely come into this with an open mind and stay curious as we continue to go along. Take what's valuable to you from each slide. Some of this might seem like a different language, and that's totally understandable and that's totally okay. Just continue to keep that open mind as we go on. All right. So we would like to preface this by saying we know that running a winery today means wearing 10 different hats. And honestly, marketing and the admin side of thing is often the first thing that slips through the cracks. But what if you had proven shortcuts that allowed you to save time, stay visible, and actually move bottles without hiring a massive team? That's what we're really going to go into today with you. So we will start with some time-saving priorities. So here are 3 weekly marketing activities that actually matter and will actually help you move the needle that you can prioritize and focus on initially. So number 1, we're going to talk about emailing your audience. So if you know anything about us, we will say this over and over again. Email is king, queen. It is the ultimate. It is your number one owned channel that you have as a business, and it is one of the best ways to drive sales as a winery. So we like to aim for at least one email campaign per week, one per month to club members if you're doing a club as well, besides those transactional emails. So transactional emails are anything such as your club order is about to ship, it's shipped, it's been delivered, etc. So, what you can really do by just emailing one time per week is you could focus on highlighting one wine, you could focus on highlighting one story or one offer per email, and try not to join everything too much in one email because sometimes that can be very overwhelming for those that are reading the email. And honestly, a weekly cadence isn't too much if you're keeping these emails really valuable and really entertaining for the person to read. So think of it, I guess, in terms of what would you want to open and what would you want to read from an email. I'm sure many of you get subscribed to many emails. So just making sure that there is a lot of value in this email that you are sending. And honestly, one of our biggest insider tips that we can give you is even just a plain text email from a winemaker or somebody on the team performs so well because it's a really personal and yeah, basically a personalized and special email that you're sending. So it doesn't need to have all of these fancy design aspects to it. Just one simple email in plain text form can do wonders for a winery. And number two, we're going to talk about showing up where your customers are, so social media. So focus on 1 to 2 platforms max. Again, we're going back to we know that you are all so busy, and it's not worth it to spread yourself thin on so many different platforms. We have all the time people being like, is it worth it to be on TikTok? Is it worth it to be on X? And we always say, go where your customers are and go where your audience is, and stay consistent on that 1 or 2 platforms if you want to extend it to that second platform. And honestly, posting 2 to 3 times per week consistently is perfect enough. If that's all you can do, then that is great and that will help you move the needle. We don't need to be posting every single day to see results and stay visible on social media. And really, in social media, prioritize the storytelling aspect, sharing visuals, and always a call to action. So, a call to action is basically that guide that tells your audience where you want them to go and what you want them to do next. So, that's anything like want to book a tasting with us, head to the link in our bio to book. Or you can set up automations. We can go into automations later, but we get really excited about those. But anything basically that's directing your audience where you want them to go next. And also, in terms of types of format, if we're talking about Instagram, stories and reels are going to give you the most visibility to a new audience, whereas images and carousel posts are going to show more to the current audience that you have on social media. So they're more for that trust building aspect. And this matters because social media does essentially build that brand awareness. It creates touch points and also drives tasting room visits or club signups. So it's kind of acting as that top of the funnel to get people to your website and book and make sales. And number three, if you focus on these are the 3 priorities, the third one, or number three, is keeping your website and your shop updated. So this one is often ignored, but it is really a quiet sales driver. So anytime you have a new wine, to add it to your site, make an effort to add it to your site. Anything that is sold out or no longer available, making sure you remove it or at least update it with saying it's sold out, because there's nothing worse when somebody goes to buy a wine and then they realize it's sold out after they've already made the purchase. We also want to ensure that you're updating your tasting room hours, any events, and wine club info with relevant information, and also featuring your seasonal or best-selling wines prominently and dominantly on your site so everybody can see. Because honestly, your website is where the sales happens, of course, so don't lose people with outdated info. And how do we now identify what to drop versus what to delegate? So you want to keep something or the task or the project at hand if it directly leads to sales, bookings, or list growth. You want to keep it if it builds relationships with loyal customers. And the most important thing is that you enjoy it. So you want to make sure that you're still doing what you love. And if not, you're going to drop it if it's taking up too much time, nobody's engaging, you're posting just to post. We don't want to do that. And you want to drop it if you're on platforms that your audience doesn't care about. And the things that you can delegate is if it's repeatable and doesn't need you, so something you can pass on to a team member or working with an agency or a virtual assistant, you can delegate these things such as formatting emails, uploading blog posts. Someone basically delegate it if someone else could do it 80% as well, with a little bit of instructions ahead of time, and also delegate it if it drains you, but it still matters to the business. So those are a few of the time-saving priorities. We are going to next move into content creation shortcuts with Antonia. I will let you take it away in this.
Okay, perfect. So we are going to talk about batching. So to be honest, what we don't have if we run a business is basically time. It's always like the thing. And so it's really difficult to be like every day creating stories, creating reels, creating any posts. And that's where batching comes in. And so batching is basically that means creating content and focused on blocked in a block of time instead of like constant switching, doing, etc. So it's kind of like if you see all those reels, for example, on Instagram, like basically meal prepping. You set aside a certain time, and then you can create the content for the next weeks or for the next month or etc. So what and their systems come basically in. So what we see, what works for most of the people is kind of like to separate it by content type and task type. So you can, for example, batch copy when you're saying like, okay, I'm going to sit down every week or every month, whatever works for you. Obviously, it needs to work for you, and be like, okay, I'm going to sit down and just write the copy or just a caption, just like all the copy for voiceovers, like all these transcripts, for example. And then the other thing is like, for example, batching media, literally scheduling a photo shoot, be it a professional shoot or like a photo shoot with your tripod and making videos. Take some outfits with you, some different outfits, some different ideas, and then a location where you can, vary the angle and be like, okay, I'm going to make at least 3 reels or 5 reels, whatever you need, however often you want to post, and then switch the outfits, switch like your angle and create those media types. And also the planning, you can batch that. Choose themes. For example, say like 1 week you're really focusing on wine education. And then 1 week you're really focusing on, what is seasonal, for example, harvesting, like maybe batch like all the content about harvesting. What can you do? Like even the idea, what I always recommend is kind of make a content Bible where you always have like all your topics you want to talk about and separate them by topics. Also the organizing, batch it in like, okay, I'm going to sit down and see what kind of material I have and where I can like use it. A lot of times you can basically, and that's the next point I'm talking about, repurpose. So basically one content can go for different topics. And it's really important that you really like when you organize, set up your Google Drive, your Dropbox, or whatever you use. Keep everything for each wine, for photos, for text sheets, like organize it as well as possible so you always can repurpose those things. So what does repurpose mean? Basically, it's one idea and a lot of uses. So when you're after the batching part, you can repurpose each piece of content with like different types. For example, a story you can with a poll, shorts or reel, a carousel post, a club email, a winemaker note on your website. So you have one idea and you just use it for all those different types of content. The key is you don't really need a lot more content. You just need a really good system to stretch what you already have. And that's like rule number 1. Please remind yourself all the time. We have this example, for example, that you turn one post into 5 different posts. So let's say you are releasing a skin contact Pinot Gris and you have 5 ways to feature it. So it could be literally like an educational post about what is skin contact wine, a lifestyle post, what food pairing tips do I post about with Pinot Gris. Community, a feature from the winemaker or the techniques used for this wine. or club focused, like club members get this wine first, and here's what they have to say, or even a personal story. What do you love about this wine, and what makes it so special for you? So the idea is really like take one content and use it as many times as possible. And now we're going to talk about email efficiency.
Awesome. Yes. Emphasis on repurposing. I think a lot of people think that they have to create things from scratch, but really just take a look at the old content too that you've maybe posted that has done very well, or an email that's done very well. How can it be said differently, essentially? All right, so email efficiency, let's talk about this. So, one of your greatest assets in terms of email marketing as well. So once you start on a platform, and there's very many platforms, and I think Antonia will speak about the different types of platforms later. But in regards to email marketing, if you get set up on a platform, a lot of the time they will have automations, or sometimes they're called flows or journeys. And essentially what these are emails that are it's basically pre-made, and or well, you have to go in and make them, but they're a sequence essentially, as it sounds. So somebody opts into something that you have, so it's whether your sign up list, or on your website you have a little snippet that says enter your email to stay in touch. Basically it's that journey that they're then going to go on after they opt into something that you're doing. So you don't need a giant funnel at all. You just need 3 powerful automations that can really make a big impact. And you have to go in the back end of your email marketing platform to set these up. But we are going to talk about the 3 that are the most important. And number 1 is the welcome sequence. So the welcome sequence is sent when someone joins your list. So whether that's from a tasting, an event, or a website pop-up, as we mentioned. And this is 3 to 4 emails that introduce your stories, your wine. And the key here is only a gentle offer. A lot of the times we see clients that come to work with us, they have a welcome flow set up. However, it is so heavily promotional and so heavy on just trying to sell them right out the gate. And that is going to be a little tricky, and it's not going to lead to the best results, because what we really want to do is we want to nurture this audience that is coming into your welcome flow. So you can start by using different emails, such as a welcome, why your winery is different, what's the story behind your winery. Maybe the second email is meet the winemaker, and where they came from, what their background is, what they're doing with our wines. Email 3 would maybe be how to visit us. So again, we're still providing the value, but then those soft touches like, hey, you want to come visit us in Oregon and Washington at our beautiful winery? Like, here's how to do it. And here's the story of our tasting room, maybe something like that. And email 4, that's when you can really share with them maybe an offer, such as a 10% discount code for their first order. But again, still, I really want you to keep in mind value, 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 value. We always want to drive with value first. The second type of sequence and automation that you could set up is a reorder nudge. So this is something that is sent 30 to 45 days after they've made a purchase on your website. And basically, this is a reminder to restock in case they're out of that wine, or if they've drank in the whole case that they've bought from you. So again, just those subtle touches keep you front of mind when they're going to look for their next bottle to enjoy with a friends or at dinner. And number 3 is your club renewal or retention. So if you do currently have a wine club, we want to ensure that these people are getting these automated reminders when their next shipment is about to ship. And you can also just share with them too other tidbits and kind of behind the scene glances that make them really feel a part of your community and a part of your club. So things like that can talk about like the wine preview. So maybe tasting notes, some recipes for the wines that they're going to be getting in their next club shipment. Maybe it's a special note, a special thank you from the winemaker, or it could be an upgrade offer. So you maybe say, or like a referral code even. So if they know somebody that would be interested in joining the club, maybe you can offer them a 10% discount code and give that to them as well. So really this is helping reduce the churn and then also boost the excitement and make people feel excited to be a part of your club community. All right. And we're also going to talk about how to write 3 months of emails in 60 minutes. So here is our tips regarding that. So 1, I want you to sit down and you will set a timer for 20 minutes. And within that 20 minutes, you're literally just going to type out, brain dump 12 email ideas, which is essentially 1 email per week. You can use themes such as new releases, a food pairing, behind the scenes events, event recaps. And also a top tip as well is if you have an FAQ on your site, each of those FAQs can really be built out into a piece of content. So maybe people are curious if you can bring dogs to the winery. Great, let's write a story about how this person brought a dog to the winery and how they had such an amazing time there because their dog was allowed to come. You know, really thinking outside of the box in terms of what are people asking and what would they want to know. Um, and then the next 20 minutes after you've jotted down those ideas, you can then write rough drafts for 4 to 5 of them, you know, keeping it simple, like 3 to 5 sentence story, using a photo, a link to order, always keeping that CTA. And then in that final 20 minutes, you can format the emails or hand off to a team member or an agency that you're working with, load into your email platform and schedule. So it's really just about setting the time aside to do these tasks. And like we said, email is one of your most important assets. And most people overthink email, but it doesn't have to be that difficult. It can be very easy. And you can use that plain text, personal and human email, as we mentioned before. So don't overthink it when it comes to email. All right, we are burning through this. We have next, we are going to talk about delegation and systems. So Antonia, I will let you speak to this part.
Perfect, perfect. Okay, so even if you're like a solo business, if it's only you, if it's a really small team, believe me, having systems in place really is the only way how to scale your business. We've come in a lot of times into businesses where there was no system at all. And honestly, the earlier you start, the better it is because eventually you have to do that. So there are certain, systems you should develop or implement as soon as possible. Even if it's only for you, even if it's for you and you're like 2 other team members, or even if you're like working with a marketing agency, for example. So one really, really important thing, what I would recommend you, especially into like marketing and like, getting your information out there, is a content calendar, because it shows you exactly what you're posting, when it's going out, and who is doing it. And it's always important to be really clear on those kind of things. And it also lets you kind of, have the carousel, because as you saw, we are having different posts, right? We are having educational posts, we are having community posts, we are having inspirational posts, and you don't want to have 5 times the same posts in one week, and then the next 5 week, 5 times the other next posts. So you want to kind of like, vary it as much as possible. And when you have a content calendar, you really can like see all of like, all of a month, for example, if that works for you. You can build it out in different platforms. There are platforms like ClickUp, Asana, and Notion, which are kind of like, tools. If you're not really a tool person, then definitely an Excel sheet will make it as well for you. And then there's also Airtable, for example, which is kind of like a better Excel sheet. But again, if you're not a tech savvy person, then just stay with, an Excel sheet, which is completely fine. So it's basically the idea behind it is really to stay consistent, to have no more last minute panic. Remember when it is like you're really like, I haven't posted, I need to post. Let me like, what do I do? And then you just throw out anything. So you really want to have this written and have like, a consistent marketing basically, because that's the only way how to do marketing. Like every so often is not going to work for you. Okay, and then we are going to talk about SOPs. And what are SOPs and why does it actually matter? So what are SOPs? It's standing there for standard operation procedure, a fancy step-by-step guide, basically, a fancy term for a step-by-step guide. And so some example for SOPs for wineries could be like how to share on Instagram certain wines, how to send out the monthly club email, how to update the wine store on a website. And so the whole idea is it needs to, like, when there is a task or like a project, which is always the same, it is repeatable, then document it. Please always, 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 always document it. And this way, anyone in your team can step in. And then as we were talking about delegation, and I'm going to come to that in a second, it is so important that if you want to scale your business at one point, you want to be able to delegate and be like, okay, here's how it works. And we don't want to have, for example, for Instagram, every time another template, for emails, like every time a different way how to create the emails, a trillion questions, etc. Really, if there's anything what is repeatable, what is happening all the time, just make an SOP. It might be like a little bit more time to invest to create those SOPs, but it's so worth it in the long run. And then regarding delegation, so you really want to be able to have like this smart delegation mindset. And we would recommend you, for example, have like certain tasks where you're like, you know how to delegate them. For example, have your tasting room take weekly photos and drop them in the shared folder. It's like you don't want to do that all the time. Or hire a marketing agency to schedule your emails, and you just like give the input or write the copy if you still want to like do that yourself, and they can like make the whole professional part of the email newsletter. Use a scheduler, so somebody else, you just like create maybe the content, but you don't have to be the one who is really like posting everything. And share like any SOP, which we've been talking about with an admin agency, for example, for making all these updates. So with these kind of systems in place, believe me, you're going to save a lot of hours every week, every month, and you're going to be really thankful for that in the long run. Obviously, I've been mentioning those tools now, but we're going to talk really quickly about some tech stack and tools in the next one. So there are a ton of tools out there, and it's very confusing for a lot of people, especially if you're not a tech savvy person. And I'm going to be honest, like tools are not going to fix everything, but they are going to make things a lot easier. And so you're going to can use basically different tools to make your content planning and project management easier. For example, there's ClickUp, Asana, Notion. Those are those typical project management tools you want to have. Then there are email marketing tools, and those are really important because you really want to have email marketing, as McKenna mentioned. So there is, for example, Flowdesk, which is like a visual platform, or there is MailChimp, which is kind of like the beginner platform everybody uses. There's Klaviyo, especially for e-commerce, really, really great to segment and to build those automations out and to integrate with your systems. And then there's ConvertKit, which is also like more, if you're more into the writing, if it's like, it's more like a storytelling email platform. So as McKenna mentioned as well, like each of these lets you kind of like send newsletters, automate, have sequences, segments by clubs, tasting rooms, etc. So that's really important. And one really important part I want you to take into consideration is the integration part. So basically, as your winery grows, you kind of want to like know how people behave and like have all these systems work together. You want to have, for example, if you use let's say Shopify, you want your email platform work with it, be able to integrate. So Shopify, your Klaviyo, for example, is very integratable with Shopify. So you want to be able to really see like, okay, I want to send all these emails to the people who have been, purchasing in the past. Or as McKenna had this example as well, like somebody has been purchasing on a constant basis. You really want to nurture them in a certain way, in a different way than somebody who never purchases or who isn't really engaged, etc. So always see that you choose those tools which can basically talk to each other. And then there are also a lot of content scheduling tools. Again, always make sure it is adaptable to what you need. Like there's Later, Buffer, Publer, just to name some. Always have this idea, what is working for you? What do you need for your business? Where do you post, etc. So kind of like go into that. We have a little bonus with like what's worth paying for and what's not worth paying for. And I just want to go into that real quick. So what is really important to pay for is definitely an email platform. Research it before, like be clear about your needs and research it. A content planning tool like ClickUp, Notion, Asana, as I mentioned, because you can also like, plan your project. And eventually, as you grow and you always want to have this growth mindset, it is really important to have that set up. A scheduler for content, you don't have to pay for it if you don't post on a trillion platforms. But if you want to have like, those really, really nice metrics and analytics, then you pay for it. A shared content folder, by that I mean basically Google Workspace or Dropbox, it needs to be big. You need to pay because eventually you want to have a lot of content. Canva Pro, if you do like, every so often, any nice graphics, it makes sense. It is not too expensive. And then if you are really like, pro, I definitely would go for ManyChat for the paid version. It is this application, which basically when you for sure have seen it, somebody comments on a post and then they get right away message like, they comment wine to a post where you offer wine and then they get a certain offer. So it is an automation which like, talks to the people directly in Instagram. Not worth it yet, especially when you're like still on the smaller business side. Is an expensive CRM software with features you won't ever use or not right away. Fancy websites, and there the most important part is like fancy websites that are impossible to update because they are so overcoded and so difficult. Posting on every social media platform and especially getting a verified account, not really worth it. And then any video editing tools, if you're not a like a videographer, you don't really need it. You can like edit them on Instagram. CapCut has a nice free version. It's definitely enough. So yeah, that's for that. And I give the word to McKenna.
Awesome, awesome. That was really wonderful. And definitely the tool part, sorry. As I know Amira did say in the chat, I've noticed scheduled posts don't get as much engagement as organic posts. Seems like Instagram suppresses them. And I will just speak to that really quickly is Instagram, like scheduling tools are great, right? Like they're allowing you to save time to make sure that you have content going out and it's being scheduled. But what's going to be most important is what are you doing after that post goes out? So we always say, don't post and ghost. So essentially, when you are using that scheduling tool and a post does go out, if you're not on Instagram or whatever platform it is, right after, like within like 5 to 10 minutes after something gets posted, and you're not sharing it to your stories, replying to comments, the algorithm basically takes that post as not like being good enough or not being not being liked by many people if you're not like increasing that engagement on there. And so it won't push it out to as many people. So in terms of how you're saying Instagram suppresses them, that's essentially it, because the way the algorithms work, especially with Instagram, is the more time you spend on like a certain post, a reel, the platform itself, the more it's going to push out that content, because it's kind of like a vortex. Like it just wants you to stay within that. Like it wants you to be stuck within that certain platform. So the more time you spend on it, engaging with people that are commenting on your posts, the more that post is going to get sent out. So I would just encourage you to maybe you are scheduling those posts, maybe put a timer on your phone or something where you can see it as well, that that post is going out. So it sends a notification, and then go on the platform. And literally you just have to spend 5 to 10 minutes just making sure, the post went out, people are commenting, reply to those comments, or just like engaging with your audience in general. Okay, so I know we have a lot to go through, and we are getting close to the question and answer component. And if you do have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat as we just go through this last part, and then we'll make sure that we have time at the end to answer those. All right, so really quickly here, we will talk about what to stop doing. So these are the main things to kind of wrap everything up that we spoke about. And the things, if you get anything from this, just be cautious and maybe do a check and see if you are currently doing these things, and maybe see how you can reassess and reevaluate these certain components moving forward. So these are the common mistakes that we see a lot of winery teams making all the time, and they are really costing you time, energy, and sometimes even sales. So number one is overposting on social with no strategy. So just posting daily with no clear message, no call to action, no plan. It's not really consistency, it's really just noise. And what we want to do instead is post intentionally 2 to 3 times a week, and making sure each post connects to a goal. So whether that's storytelling, whether that is trying to promote a new wine you've just released, or growing your email list. So always think before you're sending out the post, what would my target audience, would they want to read this? What would they get from this? Is it educational? Is it entertaining? Or is it inspiring them? And then the second thing we want to stop doing is to under emailing your list. So if you only email when there's a new release, when there's an issue with shipping logistics, you're missing massive opportunities. So what to do instead is to email regularly. If you can't do a weekly cadence, try for a bi-weekly cadence at least, and really ensure these emails have value, not just offers. We want to tell stories. We want to feature happy customers, share tasting tips, because this is how you really build trust and sales. And number three, what you want to stop doing is no clear CTA or call to action. So beautiful bottle shots isn't going to be enough. So if your posts and emails don't guide your audience towards the next step, they'll just scroll past. So what to do instead is always include a call to action such as try this wine, head to the link in our bio to book a tasting, join our club via this site, this link, really telling them what to do next. We also want to stop not repurposing content across platforms, as Antonia said. So rewriting everything is wasting your time and burning you out. We want to repurpose, such as one wine can be spoken about in a reel, in an email, in a blog post, in an Instagram carousel, and it can be the tasting room feature of the day. Stretch your content across formats and channels. And then number five, we really want you to stop trying to be everywhere at once. So Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Pinterest, Threads, it's just not sustainable. What to do instead is pick the 1 to 2 platforms that your buyers actually use and you've had engagements on, and show up well there. And you can always expand into other platforms later if you feel the need to. All right. So if you need help putting this into action, if you don't need another year of trying to figure it out all alone, if today's session really lit a fire in you and you're ready to simplify, we do offer VIP days. So these are for the founder who wants clarity, implementation. We give you the 5 hours of focused collaboration and creation. You get 30-minute pre-call to align to your goals, and you can choose a style, whether it be collaborative or we take the reins, done for you. And this is really just to focus on your strategy, content, emails, or systems, whatever moves the needle first. And we also have something exciting as well. We're doing our Summer of Story, which is a 10-day storytelling challenge with daily prompts that we share with you. And this really is intended to help you show up online, build connection, and tell better stories. So if you're interested in any of that, you can contact us. We have our email here, hello@Gleam Connections, but we know we're running on time and that was a lot to learn. So we'll just take a deep breath and then allow some time for all of you to ask some questions to Antonia and I, so we can help best support you in your next steps moving forward. Okay.
We had already this question from Amira regarding content, and there's not a lot of engagement on organic posts. And it's interesting. I mentioned already, like there's, consistency is just always the key. If you don't post for a long time and then you have one post, and it could be even like literally one of those posts which are, having everything from the hook to like the right visuals, to the right caption, to the right CTA, etc. Like literally Instagram, especially, and all those platforms, even LinkedIn, they want you to be on the platform. They want you to be all the time there. They want you to comment to others. They want you to have any engagement in general, because it's literally not gonna value it if you don't do so. So it's really being consistent. And then also the other part is like, if the engagement is low, don't get frustrated. I always have to give this tip, because I know like sometimes you're like doing this amazing reel or this amazing post and you're like, oh my God, all my heart and my blood is in there, and then nobody reacts. It is a bummer, but it's like, that's how it works. Just like, try out the next one. It could be, there are literally like even studies where it's like, you post the same post on different times and one time is performing so much better than the other one. So don't get disengaged by that. And the last point I want to mention here is like, it's not so much anymore about the likes. I would definitely always have a look about the views. So how many people saw your reel or your post? Especially your reel, like how many people, how many impressions. And then what is always interesting is how many people, even like people don't act anymore as much. They don't like or comment as easy as a couple of years ago. But you always want to check out, did they go on my home, on my profile? And then did they even go to my link in bio? So those are the actually really important indicators. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yes, because essentially, like you said, and we've said before, social media is kind of, if you think of marketing as a funnel, and I'm sure a lot of you have heard this concept before, it is a funnel, and social media is kind of at the top of the funnel. So it's really what you want people to, you want to share posts, you want to share content that really shows your brand, your values, your wine. And then what your goal is to get people from that top of the funnel to trickle down into the funnel and essentially land on your website, book a tasting, book a wine. So social media is kind of like your storefront. Think of it like that, I guess. I know some of you maybe have a brick and mortar store or an actual winery, of course, and wine tasting room. But think of Instagram kind of like that as well. It's like your virtual digital online store. So essentially, we're trying to get people to take a look, browse around, and then when they're ready to purchase, they head to that link in your bio and they make that purchase or they book a tasting with you. So it's really all about trickling down in terms of that funnel. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know. Does anybody else have any more questions? Anything regarding the back end side, the tools that we had mentioned, things to stop doing, things to start doing? We're more than happy to answer those. Well, if you have, awesome. I'm glad to hear that, Amira. These reminders were super helpful. Yeah, and I think it's really just about, like I mentioned before, is prioritizing what you can do at the moment. If you are a really small winery team, it's just focusing on those 1 to 2 tasks that maybe you can spread out throughout the week that will help move the needle forward if you don't have a big team or, an agency that you are working with, is focusing on how can I maybe send out one personalized, plain text email that maybe shares the story of why I got into wine in the first place and includes that CTA of, purchasing our wines or coming to visit our estate. We don't need to do it all and we don't need to spread ourselves thin because that is just going to essentially lead to burnout. And we don't want to do that. And in terms of marketing ideas too, like we're really big advocates on storytelling. So just really focusing on, who are you? Who are you team members? Why are you starting? Why this region? What is this? What's so special about this region? Like I know, Barbara, you said you're in Walla Walla. Maybe, tell a story about what made you fall in love with Walla Walla for the first time. What is so special about the wines being produced in this region and what that means to you and, how you fell in love with it. Like something simple that really puts people in the vibe of feeling your emotions and being able to really see the you behind the wines because that is essentially it as well. People trust people when people are going to buy from people, sorry, when they know, like, and trust you. So are they getting used to who is behind the wine bottle? Like, have they met you? Have they met your wine dog? Maybe some of you have a dog on the winery. These little things really make people feel connected to you versus just sharing, bottle shots all the time and consistently promotional offers on your wine. So really, I encourage you to all, show the face behind the brand every once in a while and consistently as you can.
Yeah.
Awesome. I know we have 2 minutes here left before the end. So if anybody else has any questions, or again, I'll go back to the page. This is our email, our website, gleamconnections.com, and on Instagram at Gleam Connections. So you can always reach out. We're always more than happy to do a brainstorming session as well. If you just want a couple ideas thrown around and to have our opinions on it, we're more than happy to sit down and chat because this is what we love to do. Yes. And thank you all so much for joining.
Yeah.